So, what do you want?
To offer you a choice. You can keep the lightsaber you stole, let it become just another dusty souvenir. Or you can give it back and come with us. Come with me, and be trained in the ways of the Force.
So, I'd usually start by easing you into an episode review, but as this is a continuation of last week's first parter, I want to delve straight into what matters.
Cool.
We pick up right where we left off last time, with Aladdin taken off to warn Kanan and the crew of the impending trap.
It's a trap!
Meanwhile, Agent Kallus's forces board the cruiser and make ready to attack right as Ezra arrives to stop them pursuing any further into the ship. Right as they attack, our intrepid heroes U-turn back to the Ghost right as Sabine and the Chopper finish laying charges and switch off the artificial gravity to distract the forces on board, allowing them to escape. However, as the gravity switches back on, Kallus catches up with the group and nabs Ezra, holding him hostage. Zeb tries to intervene, but instead chooses to leave him behind.
Well, that's fucking not good.
As they return to the Ghost and jettison away, they blow the charges and after a moment of respite, realise that Zeb left Ezra behind, with Zeb trying to reassure them that as he's a kid, they'll likely go easy on him.
It's a little fucked up, no?
Oh, it's super fucked up.
Cut to Kallus questioning Ezra about his affiliations with the crew and is simply holding him as bait to lure them back. But Ezra rebuffs this theory, saying that he's nothing to anyone and that they have no reason to come back for him. After Kallus removes all of Ezra's devices, he somehow manages to conceal a holocron behind him.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
Just don't ask questions you don't want answers to, I guess. And after growing frustrated, he taps into his innate connection to the Force and unlocks it, revealing Obi-Wan's warning to the Jedi following Order 66.
General Kenobi!
We shift back to the Ghost, with everybody but Zeb initially agreeing to go back and retrieve Ezra, feeling they're collectively responsible for this given they kept him around. Zeb begrudgingly agrees and they journey back, only for Ezra to make moves of his own and utilises the dumbest excuse to get the door open.
And you bucketheads are gonna be sorry when my uncle, the Emperor, finds out you're keeping me here against my will.
And manages to escape into the air vents. Kallus is informed of this and mobilises his troops, believing his escape to be that of the rebels having already arrived. However, as Ezra crawls through the vents, he obtained a helmet to track the communications and finds out that they've returned for him. Right as our crew run through the first door from the landing bay, Ezra drops down right in front of Zeb, who decides to almost pummel him into the floor in a hilarious moment of abuse.
Oh, how unfortunate!
They grab Ezra and escape with him, offering his thanks afterwards, and provide some information in return as to the whereabouts of the Wookiee slaves that Vizago mentioned last episode. And it's here that it's revealed that they're on the spice mines of Kessel. Hera moves to get them there and they waste no time getting into action upon their arrival, with tensions rising quickly and their exit cut off thanks to Kallus's arrival as well. Kanan instructs the group to operate a 22 pickup and Ezra demands to know what that means, and Kanan reveals it in the most badass way by unveiling to the Empire and everyone around him that he is in fact a Jedi. The pickup involves moving the Wookiees to a container for Hera to magnetize and escort out of there. However, during the melee, a young Wookiee flees the battle and Ezra pursues the little fella with Kallus not far behind. They get the Wookiees out, but Ezra takes a stand against Kallus, with Kanan arriving in time atop the Ghost, and for a moment seemingly kills Kallus, until we see that he's just below the bridge, and in frustration kicks another trooper for asking a stupid question. Oh, this show. We wrap up with Wookiees being collected and Ezra returned to Lothal, and as he leaves he nabs Kanan's lightsaber whilst simultaneously returning the holocron that he unlocked earlier. Kanan takes this as confirmation that Ezra's force sensitive and follows him back to the tower overlooking the city with an offer to train him and give him a new sense of purpose other than being a thief. We close on a montage of our heroes, intercut with Obi-Wan's speech from the holocron, and Kallus informs the Grand Inquisitor of Kanan's existence, who offers his support in the matter, bookending this two-parter.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
So last week I said I'd wait until this review to cover my thoughts about the plot and various wheels that are returning here, as I wanted to introduce those of you who are new to this to our core cast. And don't worry, we will get there in this episode, but before we get to my thoughts, I just want to clarify exactly who Kallus and the Grand Inquisitor are for those of you unaware of their history. Without giving too much away, Alexsandr Kallus is an ISB agent tasked with locating and extinguishing rebel cells, suppressing dissent on Imperial-occupied worlds, combating rebel commands like Saw Gerrera and General Dodana, and I mentioned last week that Zeb witnessed his world crumble before the Empire. Well, as it turns out, Kallus was one of the men who led that assault and caused the near extinction of the Lasats.
You dick!
He has possibly one of the best sub-arcs, as I like to call him, of the show, as he begins to acknowledge the faults within the Galactic Empire, leading to an eventual conflict with them, but fascinatingly begins the series as an unquestioning loyalist to its cause, committing detestable acts in the name of peace. So you can deduce from that at least that the course of his arc will be watching him come to that realization and question who the enemy in all this really is. The craft to his character is excellent, and I'm excited to cover more of him in the future, but for now at least, just keep him in the back of your head, as he doesn't start to play a major role until season 2, but does appear throughout the show before then. As for the Grand Inquisitor, he's used rather sparingly throughout the season, but to great effect. There's a presence to him and a mysticism that engages you whenever he appears on screen, and credit to the designers of his character model here, who took an established design for Revenge of the Sith that was already unsettling and transformed him into something absolutely fucking terrifying. He's a former temple guard turned inquisitor who was present at Ahsoka Tano's trial during the Clone Wars, where he bared witness to how incompetent and incapable the Jedi had become with their connection to the Force, and where they refused to believe the word of Ahsoka over that of public perception and the Republic's concerns. This situation, as we saw, worked itself out in the end with Ahsoka leaving the Order, but left a seed of doubt within the Inquisitor, who would then be swayed to switch sides by Popes in the Darth Vader comics by Charles Soule, being promised the forbidden knowledge of the Jedi archives, which he repeatedly chased but was kept away from thanks to Master Jocasta Nu throughout the Clone War. He serves as part of the Inquisitor program, which are an assortment of former Jedi and Force sensitives acting as an extension of Vader, designed to continue hunting down Jedi following Order 66. He proves in both the series and comics to be a formidable threat, and one I'd peg as pretty powerful in his own right. But against both the remaining Jedi and Rebels, he's someone who's calculating, composed, intelligent, and understands Jedi forms, knowing how best to counter Ezra and Kanan. If you have little knowledge to who his character is, I would seriously recommend those Charles Soule Vader comics that I mentioned a second ago, plus this series and what little we had from the Kenobi series to really get an idea of who he is. But trust me, he'll grow on you, especially in this series, and is certainly designed for those of us that love a good villain. Overall, it's a good time, and provides a simple enough plot to follow, with expert use of musical motifs, stunning backdrops and environments, and writing that many of the shows today could learn from, with the focus becoming that of the characters and their journeys being emphasised through their actions. An excellent case of show don't tell. We gauge an understanding of how our crew operate here and where they sit emotionally right now, with their actions acting both as a statement against the Empire and an outlet for their untapped frustrations and histories. All of them possess a level of tragedy that we'll soon explore in their own right, but is all given to us in increments, which helps the audience easily digest what it is that they're given each week.
That's what she said!
Speaking of the environments, the return to Kessel was entertaining as a backdrop to the scenario playing out in front of us, as it is a place where slaves essentially go to die, given its harsh conditions, but it almost acts as a counterweight to Kanan's reveal, who in that moment becomes the light in the darkness for all those Wookiees. I really appreciated how this book ends too with the premiere, as it informs us of how these villains will be introduced in the show, and we're given an understanding to the Darksiders hierarchy, where from the top it's Palpatine who sits atop that mountain of tyranny, then it's Vader who instructs the Inquisitors, who then act as servants to the ISB, and commanders like Tarkin, Yularen and Thrawn. The pacing of this escapade is consistent with how Season 1 is structured, as you have those comical moments that work to provide relief from any tension, but surrounding it constantly is the threat of those that seek to destroy them. You also realise by the end of this episode that there's a fluid hierarchy in the crew of the Ghost as well, that we'll see changes to depending on the situation down the road, but in your heart you know both Kanan and Hera lead the charge, then Zeb as the muscle who's capable of commanding but doesn't want that responsibility again, then with Ezra and Sabine being positioned and trained to someday take over as both Jedi and leader respectively, as we're about to see them become in the Ahsoka series. The relationship between Kanan and Ezra will become a fascinating dynamic as the show continues as well, as on one hand you have a begrudging apprentice in his own right who's respecting his legacy and attempting to uphold traditions without knowing whether he can actually handle it or not, and on the other side you have an overzealous young lad who lacks focus and needs to learn self-control, which without he'll never be able to meet his potential. Yet they understand that they can help each other as much as they need each other, but can't do anything until they've removed a few demons. They're honestly one of my favourite combos in Star Wars, and I'm excited to cover a lot more of their adventures down the road, as some of them are core moments to the series and to the franchise as a whole. Anyway, that's all I've got regarding this one. Thank you so much again for joining me with the series. The reception has been awesome so far, So I'm glad that many of you are happy to hear my thoughts on Rebels. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for every episode breakdown, and don't forget my Clone Wars and Ben 10 reviews and so much more on the way each week. Until next time though everybody, take care and may the Force be with you.